This video will look at the interrelationship between marketing and the various other functional areas within a business. So it will consider carefully the linkage between the various departments, but also the fundamental role that marketing plays in overseeing the various functions, coordinating them, and ensuring that the final product is delivered to the customer and that it meets the customer's requirements. So functional units or departments exist within organizations. We imagine a business to have a production department, a HR department, a design department. It's got various functional areas, but it also has got a marketing department. And it's the marketing department's job to collect information about the requirements of the customers, about what they expect in the product, and to ensure that their expectations are met, both in terms of the product itself, but also in its delivery and in its after-care service. Each department works towards achieving overall business objectives. Each department is set up in a way that it has its own objectives. It must complete certain tasks. So for example, the production department must meet a certain level of output in a given time period. But it also must meet the output to a certain quality. And these will be specified. And then of course there is the structure of the department which goes to support this, and this is also very important. There will be a head of department and then senior staff within the department, all the way through to adequate training for the line staff, the people who press the buttons and do the work at the end. So it's a question of reporting within the department, having good channels of communications within the department, going back through the head of the department, back into the corporate plan, back for the scrutiny of senior management, who will look at the output of the various departments and see if it meets their requirements. And ultimately that output from that particular department will be gauged in terms of its contribution towards the final product which is sold to the customer. And if that product is of an appropriate quality, then future sales can be anticipated. All functions within an organization have their own department with roles and responsibilities. Generally speaking, it depends on the size of the company of course, but generally speaking, companies have various departments for specific purposes. As I said earlier, there's the HR department, there's the production department, there will be the stores department. These may be separate or they may be linked in some way, but there are various departments, and all of them, the work of all of them I should say, is contributing towards the final output. The final output which goes to the customer. If the customer likes the product, he or she, or it, if it's a company, may place further orders, which is to the good of the business. It's important that functional departments work together to ensure effective running of the business process. It's not as if the organization is made up from different functional areas, all segmented and compartmentalized. They in fact do have lots of channels of communications and lots of connectivity. So they're not working in isolation. They know what their job is. The job will be specified according to the various schedules that have been passed out, perhaps at a monthly meeting or a briefing from senior management. But the departments know that they must also work with other departments. So the production department should work with the HR. To fill a vacancy, for example, the HR will need a precise brief as to what sort of person should be recruited. Well, that brief will come from the production department, again working with the HR department. Distribution, of course, will work with the stores to ensure that the product is available for distribution. And it's important to say here also that we're talking in the context of an organization that's producing a physical output, but many organizations produce services. But again, the same interconnectedness should take place. In an office environment, someone producing a set of accounts which will go to meet the accounting requirements of an organization on the outside, so that the accountancy firm is selling its services. That individual preparing the accounts must also work with the person who's responsible for the computer system and the software and the internal server, and so that the accountant is able to get access to appropriate facilities. So there's also sorts of interconnections between the various people within organizations. If we look at an organization, it's very easy to imagine it as a board of directors and some functional areas underneath, all of them reporting up to the board of directors, and that's a typical organizational chart from a very basic textbook on business studies. Of course, what we should see is lots of lines going from production to marketing, from production to accounts, from HR to production and to marketing. So in other words, there are not that simple diagram we got there. There will be many lines connecting the various departments and almost bypassing the board of directors because they are talking to each other. The marketing department is responsible for creating customer awareness, and it's important that the marketing department knows what the customers require through market research and through discussions and contacts with the customer. And the marketing department should feed this back to production and to the senior staff in the company so that they are producing the right product that precisely matches the requirements of the customer. So it's a question of the marketing department finding out what the customer wants and then enabling the business to produce items that satisfy that requirement, and also maintaining contact with the customer to ensure that the customer is happy and feels that he or she, or it if it's a company, has received a good service. So the marketing department is crucial in all of this picture. Market research is an important aspect and useful for obtaining feedback on potential and existing products. It's important that as companies evolve and start to think about new products and innovating, that all of that effort is market tested, and it's the marketing department who will do that by inviting customers to give feedback on new ideas for the products or for the product range. It may be that the marketing department will invite customers to participate in focus groups or in discussion groups to try and feed back what they feel about the product and what they would like to see in terms of future development. Promoting products and services through advertising and promotional techniques. Well, the marketing department is responsible for this. It's the function, many people think it's the primary function of the marketing department to market the product, to promote the image of the product, promote a desire in the mind of the customer to possess the product. And this could happen through advertising, through discussions, through sponsorship, through exposure, in whatever way is appropriate, so that the marketing department is placing the name of the business and trying to brand the product, and also placing images of the product in front of the customers to ensure that the customers are aware of what the product is and of its desirability. Taking part in customer relations management and relationship marketing, marketing departments are not bound to the organization in any physical sense. It's not that they spend their lives within the company, within the structure of the business, within the buildings. They should be out talking to customers, discussing with customers what they want, and demonstrating ideas, and getting to know the customers, getting to know their preferences, what they want, and the way they see the market changing. So they're working with the customer and bringing back ideas from their discussions, which can then be considered more fully by senior management and by the development staff within the organization. They can then try to work out what is the best way forward in terms of development. Of course, the marketing department must also try to work out what the appropriate marketing strategy and pricing strategy is. It's where to place the products, how to place the products, but also what prices to charge. Looking at the distribution channels, how the product should be delivered to the customer. Maybe it's delivered through wholesalers or through retailers. Looking at new products and their development, as I said earlier. But pricing is something that is particularly important. If the marketing department recommend a price for the product, that price should enable the business to pay all its overheads and its prime costs, and also generate a profit. The business exists so it will produce a profit. It doesn't exist just to supply the product. It exists to produce a profit. Now, if the price is wrong, in other words, let's say the price was too high, then customers may turn against the product. But also, that may encourage competitors to enter the market. Other producers come in and start selling similar products at a lower price. So getting the price too high is dangerous. But getting the price too low is also dangerous, because it affects the balance sheet for the business. It affects the profitability of the business. If they're not making a lot on the product, the business may become vulnerable. It may not be able to reinvest when it needs to, or undertake new product development, which is a costly exercise. So getting pricing right, I should say, is crucial. The need to interrelate with functional departments. Well, marketing department has a particular onus, as I said earlier, to cut across all of the various departments and have linkages with all of them. So in order for the marketing department to achieve their objectives, they must communicate with other functional departments. They must know what the other departments think. They must know what their priorities are, what they're planning, what's in the pipeline. So they must be aware of what's happening within the organization. So they must have good channels of communications internally within the business, so they know exactly what's happening within the business. And the departments must work together to achieve the company's overall goal. There must be coordination between the departments. Now this, you could say, is a function of senior management, to ensure that the various departments are linked. They have good channels of communications. If they have good channels of communications, then they're all aware of who's saying what and what they're thinking, and some may object and some may support, but it's through this various debates, I should say, within the organization, that some consensus may emerge and a final presentation to the customer can be made. So it's important that all of the departments have linkages. They understand what each one is doing and how they're linked together. Take for example the accounts department. Well, the accounts department is responsible for the financial aspect of a business. It's the accounts department who ensures that records are kept, clear records, and they must manage and monitor budgets based on the various records that they have got. And they must of course ensure that the departments are not overspending. So this is of prime concern to the accounts department, that budgets which have been issued should be adhered to. Forecasting future financial demand is also a part of the accountant's remit. Consulting senior management on sources of finance for capital expenditure. So the accounts department must know what resources the business has got. They must know what resources are likely to be available in the near future and in the long run, so that they can plan out what development the business can undertake, and indeed the viability of the business can be measured through this type of exercise. Producing financial statements and recording money received and checking and paying invoices, that's an important part of the accounts department, to make sure that there is good stewardship of the various monies that flow into the business, and also that money flowing out, resources flowing out, are adequately accounted for. They know where it's gone, and they have a record of who had it, when it went out, and the purpose why it went out. Payroll and ensuring staff receive wages and salaries on time, that's crucial. People's livelihoods depend on it, and the workers and the staff, the line staff and the management staff, they go to work not just for the pleasure of working, but also to receive a salary, to receive a wage, to pay their living expenses. So it's important that the accounts department know that the resources are there to meet those obligations. Now, if you look at the interrelationship between marketing and the accounts department, well, the marketing department needs to know the financial position of the business so that they can plan their budgets. So right at the start, it's the marketing department who need to know what the budget is, how much research can they do in the market, how many sales personnel can they have, how many marketing managers or product managers can they have in the field, what's the expense account, how much can they allow. They need to contact the accounts department to ensure payroll and salaries are paid on time. The staff within the marketing department, like any other member of staff, needs to be paid on time. Making payments for marketing activities such as advertising and promotion is also important. The marketing manager needs to know if the company can afford to place advertisements in a trade magazine or to publicize the product in a certain way. There needs to be a budget for it, and they need to know that that budget will be honoured. In other words, that the accounts department are producing accurate accounts, ones that are reliable, and that therefore the marketing manager can work with confidence towards marketing the product in accordance with the marketing department's plans. The marketing department needs sufficient funds to be able to carry out their activities and achieve their targets and objectives. And that's a good summary of what's required in terms of the relationship between the marketing department and the accounts department. Now next, the human resource department. Well, First of all, the Human Resource Department is concerned with employee welfare, recruitment and selection of employees. That's what the HR department generally do. They look after the employees, they look after health and safety and look after training and the development of the staff, look after their broader welfare. But they also must recruit the right people into the positions that are required within the business. So they must look to skills and competencies in terms of staff coming into the business, and then looking at what can be done to further improve those and to refine those skills and competencies in a way which makes them more productive within the business. They are responsible for advertising job vacancies, receiving and recording all job applications, shortlisting and selection. So they go through the whole range of activities to ensure that the most appropriate people are recruited into position. They also ensure staff are receiving appropriate training and continuous professional development opportunities. As I said earlier, to ensure that the staff are growing in terms of their competencies and abilities and their contribution to the business, but also that the members of staff themselves are getting a more interesting and more varied work experience, so that they are more contented in their position within the business. Monitoring working conditions, health and safety, and maintaining accident records. It's the responsibility of the HR department to ensure that not just the statutory requirements for health and safety are met, but these are exceeded. The members of staff working within the business need to feel safe. People do not go to work to be injured. They go to work to earn a living and to have some experiences which are enjoyable throughout the day. They need to like their work. They need to have opportunities to develop. They need to be respected and held in high regard for their contribution. But there are also disciplinary procedures, employee protection against discrimination and harassment. Sometimes members of staff may break the rules. They may break them in a variety of ways, which may endanger other members of staff or endanger the property of the business. When this happens, disciplinary procedures need to be implemented, and these should be clearly stated as to what the disciplinary procedures are. It's important that the members of staff understand what the disciplinary procedures are and what's involved, and that these are administered fairly. Monitoring in terms of conditions of employment, including wage rates, maintaining staff records and employee turnover. So the HR department tries to keep records to see what's happening within the business in terms of how are wage rates changing, and looking at staff records, staff turnover, staff entering and leaving, and issues about staff. They should be able to maintain a good set of records which will indicate to the HR managers any remedial action that needs to be taken. So they need to know what is happening before the whole situation gets out of hand. They need to know the direction that the business is running in terms of its employment policies. They need to know what the staff are thinking, and they need to have remedial action in place if it's required. They need to be able to fix situations that are not good and fix them efficiently and equitably before they escalate into perhaps strike action or withdrawal of services, or just simply people leaving because they are disgruntled. Now, the interrelationship with the marketing department, well, HR must ensure that they recruit the right candidates to join the marketing department. So the marketing department need HR. They need their skills to recruit the right personnel. The people who work within marketing, the marketing department, will have been recruited by HR, by the human resource department, in conjunction with the marketing department and perhaps in conjunction with senior management. But clearly HR have a key role to play in this. It's also the case that the marketing department will look to HR to provide training opportunities for the marketing team, to ensure that the marketing team are adequately prepared for a changing environment and changing world. They have the skills, abilities and confidence to meet customers and know exactly what's happening and the trends within the market. But all of that comes about through adequate training, which will be prepared by the HR department. They also need to review employee complaints, discrimination and tribunal procedures. If it's the case that anybody within the marketing department has an issue with the manager or with a colleague over something that was said or the way some relationship took place in terms of the work done by one was not adequate or it looked bad on the other or whatever it was, there may be some issues that have to be resolved by the HR department. And it's good that it goes outside of the marketing department. It's seen as more objective. Ensure that employees within the marketing department are working in satisfactory conditions in order to achieve organizational goals. It's the case that the marketing department must have the right equipment and the personnel within the department have adequate training in that equipment to ensure that they're able to work effectively. And again, it may require the help of the HR department to bring about training programs and bring about support for the members of staff within the marketing department to help them deliver better quality workmanship. Excuse me. Now the next part is the production department. Well, the production department is responsible for, surprise, surprise, responsible for production and assembling of finished products. So the production department, if they are making a tangible output, is the department that makes the product. But they also go through purchasing, storing and checking raw materials. They convert, after all, raw materials and components into the finished product. It's a transformation from one state into another. So they have to purchase the raw materials, they have to store the raw materials, and they have to check that they're the right quality, and then go about processing those raw materials into the final product which will be sold by the business. They need to plan production schedules to ensure that they maximize machine capacity and staff utilization. So it needs to be done in an efficient manner. In other words, the amount of input per unit of output should be used efficiently. There should be minimum input for a given amount of output. And this could be achieved by having specialist machinery, highly skilled staff, automation, robotics. It can happen in a variety of ways. Conducting quality assurance of finished goods and the throughput, or throughout the production process, I should say. So ensuring good quality of the finished output. There should be inspection within the department, product inspection to ensure that standards are met and that tolerances are being adhered to and that customers' expectations can therefore be met in terms of the quality of the product. Ensuring product is on schedule and resolving delays or problems. It's a function of the production department to ensure that if a machine breaks down, that the company is capable of rerouting the production process until the machine is brought back online. So the company doesn't have to stop. They have contingency plans. They should have flexibility in terms of working, so that if a key member of staff is away ill, for example, other members of staff can step in and perform the function to a high standard. So they need to be able to resolve issues and have contingency plans should the worst happen. Now, the relationship with the marketing department. Well, the department needs to work together for the development of new product opportunities. When the company is proposing a new product, the production department should look at the possibility of making that product given the resources it's currently got, and looking at what the shortfall is in terms of the requirements in terms of machines and new personnel. So the production department should be able to produce reports on any proposal that has been brought to the organization, perhaps by the marketing department from its contacts with customers in the field. So whatever the marketing department is proposing in terms of new developments, the production department will want to look at these proposals, scrutinize them, and make recommendations. But the production department could also conduct research and development on new product development. When something new is proposed, it's logical that the production department should be amongst the first to consider this. They may make a prototype of the new product, test it to see what's involved, and go through the process of looking at refinements in terms of design or capability for the product. So the production department will undertake research and development when a new product is proposed. Ensure marketing plans will be sufficient for operations and production schedules. It's important that the organization has plans and has proposals when it's changing production or it's looking at new product development. But marketing plans must link with production, and it's particularly important when new products are being proposed, because this is a transition period, and it's important that the marketing department and the production department can work closely so they know exactly what each other is thinking about, what the future will be, the near future that is, and what's required. So they're able to, the marketing department are able to speak to the customers and be realistic about their estimates for when the product can be delivered, and the production department will know what the pledges are that have been made to the final customer. Work with production to source quality raw materials from suppliers. So the marketing department will try to ensure that the production department are able to find a good supply of raw materials, perhaps from a single supplier, and hence have a good relationship with that single supplier. But it could be that they want to buy on the wider market and try and shop around for the best price. But that's an issue that needs to be discussed with senior management and with the head of production and the head of marketing to see what is the best long-term policy as to whether they should go with one supplier and cultivate a relationship, or go with many suppliers and shop in the wider market. The marketing department, of course, must devise the budgetary plans. They must know what is available in terms of the marketing that they're going to do, and the marketing must be related ultimately to the various products that are produced by the production department. So it's important that the marketing department know exactly what is being produced, and the quantity produced, and what orders it's meant to satisfy. So which customers are going to receive their products and when, and which customers might have to wait. The service department, the customer service department, this department is responsible for dealing with customer complaints, inquiries, and solving problems. In fact, in many organizations, this particular department would fit under marketing, fit directly under the marketing department. Customer inquiries can be about products and services, can also provide information and advice to meet customer needs. So it's a two-way process. Customers may phone the organization to ask specific questions, but also it's the case that the service department can pick up information from the customers. So the customers are getting information, but so also is the company. So a well-trained customer service department with skilled operators can pick up a lot of information about customer requirements and what the customers would like to see in the medium term and in the immediate term. The customer service department, of course, can provide after-sales service, insurance, refunds, arranging for repairs. It's the customer service department who ensures that there is good contact between the organization and the customer, and therefore if the job is being done correctly, the company can anticipate having future sales because the customers are getting a good experience. They're getting a good experience from their contact with the company. Ensuring complaints are dealt with according to company procedures and policy. So when there are complaints from customers about a product that was faulty or they were dissatisfied with the product or the service in some way, when this happens, then it's for the customer service department to smooth out that issue and to ensure that the customers are dealt with in a way that does not alienate them, that they will come back and become future customers again because, as I said earlier, they've had a good experience of the way in which the company operates. They also can conduct customer satisfaction surveys and measure customer feedback. They're in an ideal position because the customers are phoning them. So they don't have to look for the customers are phoning them or contacting them by email or whatever, perhaps visiting the showroom or whatever it is. The customers are making themselves present, and therefore the customer service department can pick up information more efficiently than simply trying to find the customers in the wider market. So they're able to measure customer requirements and be able to pick up customer feedback, and that can be used to feedback to senior management and back to the production department so that modifications to the product, changes, improvements can be made. Now the interrelationship with the marketing department, well, access customer satisfaction with products and services. So the marketing department through the service department are able to make contact with the customers and are able to know what the customers want. They're able to check the customers' requirements and what the customers didn't like, because presumably the customers will have contacted the organization because they didn't like something. That would be the main reason, perhaps, that they would want to contact the organization. They may want to contact it to compliment it on a good product, but by and large we could anticipate that they're going to contact the organization because they're disgruntled in some way. But that information is very useful to the marketing department. They're able to modify their procedures, their plans. They're able to move their strategy according to that feedback. They can review customer feedback to help develop new products and services. When customers say they're very happy with the product but they wished it could do the following, that's information, and that can be picked up on so that production and perhaps a department that develops new ideas, an innovation department, they could come together to experiment, to try to develop a product which will integrate that requirement, that recommendation from the customers. And that could lead to some breakthrough in the market and certainly bolster up the reputation of the business and its long-term viability. They could build positive relationships with the customer. Clearly the contact with the organization gives the organization a chance to develop good relationships with the customer, and that may go viral. The customer will then speak to members of his or her family, who will speak to the neighbors, who will speak to, and in that way the word will spread. This company is a good company, it's supportive, it's helpful, and issues are resolved quickly and speedily and efficiently, and it's good. It's a good relationship. So it promotes the reputation of the business. And they could conduct relationship marketing. So there could be that they involve the customers more directly in their marketing and get the customers' feedback on different issues and involve the customers in focus groups and in talking to the customers and getting the customers' recommendations so that they know their efforts are being channeled in the correct direction, and they know that the company has plans to develop products which meet those requirements. So what we've done in this video is to talk about the different functional areas. I've only looked at a few of them. There are many within organizations. The ones that we haven't looked at would be distribution, logistics, innovation. As I said, there might be new product development department. There may be all sorts of other departments involved. We've just looked at some of the key ones. And then we've looked at the relationship between the marketing department and those various other departments. What should come out of this video is an understanding of the complexity of the type of relationships that are built into modern organizations, and also the importance of linkages with the outside, specifically with the customers directly if possible, and the channels of communications and how they work, moving from the customer on the outside into the organization, the changes that are made within the organization in view of what was said by the customers, and going back to the customers and building further relationships. But that's all we're going to deal with here, so let's leave it at that and say thank you for watching.